Have you heard about Fauci? I have. He's in trouble again. I don't know why he's still walking around a free man, talking all this nonsense. We caught him many times about. He's not just psychopathic. He's a violent criminal. He killed a lot of people with his nonsense. I don't know why he does it. Is he really evil, like a Hitler kind of thing? Or he's just really a pawn in the game? But you heard about the email scandal that he shared the emails about things in 2022, and now this is coming out. And we also have a transgender story for you today. It's a legal case that a transgender athlete just won for discrimination competing in women's competition. As well, we want to talk about trains. We don't really want to talk about trains per se, but infrastructure concerning trains and all this and more. Oh, yes. Trump Freedom Cities. What's this all about? I have my theory, Glenn, his own theory. I'll see you on the other side. Watch the show. And here we are, brothers and sisters. Glenn is in the studio with me today. Thank you for coming to the Glenn Zone as usual. By the way, if you feel grateful right this moment, and I know you are, as I am for you watching the show, click like, leave a message of gratitude. Those things always come back to you. You know how it is? We always receive what we give. Give something good. Click like, subscribe to the show, listen to it. Watch and learn the discernment. I think that's the main message. What do you think about this? Glenn, what do you think about? Is that a main message for our show, discernment?
Discernment. And well, once again, Alex, thank you for inviting me on your show. We have a lot to discern about, get people to be thinking about things, form their own opinions and ideas. Just don't allow themselves to be swayed in any direction possible, which is the agenda that's going on. So we're going to put our own little take on things to mix things up a little bit.
Did you hear this story about Anthony Fauci and his email thing again? Let's pull up New York Post. You know this? How do you call that paper?
The New York Toilet Paper Post.
Yeah, something like this.
Keeps proving itself over and over again.
So Fauci's in the news again. And we'll just start with the New York Post. So the story is really about Fauci being caught up in this thing, sending emails regarding the origin of virus, right? And apparently now we understand that he has a strong connection to Wuhan. And the whole time, the media talking heads, remember how few years ago, not so long ago, they were telling us, you need to take the jab. All the legacy media, the Biden, and most of the talking heads told you need to get a job because if you get a job, you will save your grandmother. You will save the obese person down the street. You will save anybody who's not able to take a job because it will stop transmission the moment you get the job, right? And they all regurgitated. And then the media regurgitated something else.
This little evil garden gnome created so many problems in the world. He was the one in the beginning that said masks don't work. Yes, wear a mask. He says, well, if you can, wear 2 masks. He's the one who said, you have to take the vaccine. Oh, you have to take another vaccine. Oh, you have to take another booster. Oh, get in line again for another booster. We're up to 2 vaxxes, 3 boosters, and there are still people who are going to get another shot. What is it going to take for people to realize that this whole thing was just embellishment? And there's a lot of people now who've had enough. They are waking up. And Mr. Fauci, yeah, you're going to have a rough time behind bars because that's where you belong, sir.
Well, he's old enough. Maybe he's just going to die before. I don't know. I'm not going to predict any of that stuff. Let's watch this.
Lab leak is a theory with no evidence whatsoever.
There is zero evidence that this virus came out of a lab in China.
I've heard these conspiracy theories, and like all conspiracy theories, they're just conspiracy theories.
Dr. Anthony Fauci said today in an interview with National Geographic, quote, everything about the stepwise evolution over time strongly indicates that this virus evolved in nature and then jumped species.
There was a study recently that we can make available to you where a group of highly qualified evolutionary virologists looked at the sequences there and the sequences in...
You can tell, right? You can tell he's lying, just like evolved. Justin Trudeau has a tell.
The mutations that it took...
Well, he's talking about the experts on his side. What about the experts on the other side? It's completely contradicting what he's saying. How come they didn't get any airtime so that it would be a little bit easier for the population to decide what's best for them?
Well, the thing about that particular comment that we just heard him say is that he was commenting about the paper that he co-wrote. So he couldn't name the scientist that co-wrote the paper, even though he was one of the co-writers of the paper. So that was one of the exposures of this email. And let's just watch this for a little longer.
Conservative talk show host Rush Limbaugh with zero proof, suggesting a Chinese bioweapon lab is to blame.
Conspiracy theories that it was leaked from the lab in Wuhan.
This has been a huge distraction.
One of Trump world's most favorite conspiracy theories, an unsubstantiated theory that a government lab in Wuhan, China was the origin of the coronavirus outbreak.
This theory that the virus was accidentally released from a lab in Wuhan, that's his new angle.
Especially people like this. This is who we trust with a
night show host.
Yeah, night show host.
That's an expert.
Dangerous conspiracy theory. I mean, this is serious stuff, folks. Don't worry about your ratings for 1 week.
The conspiracy theory about COVID coming from a lab in Wuhan. Conspiracy theories.
In a lab in Wuhan.
Conspiracy theory.
Conspiracy theories. All right, so here's one. The virus was bioengineered in a lab.
There's no...
Let's face it, big man. This was a man-made virus. It doesn't matter where it was leaked from. The fact that it was man-made show that there are some evil people in the world. And these people are working together at the top to try to control the whole world. Now, there's big money to be made. You see, they create the solutions to the problems that they create, all for the purpose of control and even making more money.
Well, just last week, I'm going to look for, no, I'm not going to look for an article. We're not going to waste the time with this. But just last week, there was an article saying that there was plenty of evidence that the whole pandemic was, and the jab rollout was the Pentagon operation, military-run operation.
These narcissists, sociopaths, and psychopaths, they eventually get entangled in their own lies, and then they get exposed. But the problem is that this exposure, people are going to realize how it's affected so many people around the world negatively. And it's still affecting people today. People are in fear. Young kids are they have anxiety issues. They can't sleep properly. Their nerves are overreacted. All for over-embellishment of, let's say, it's a bad cold. I've had it. I think you've had it.
I've had it.
It
I
felt
believe
like
I had it more than once. I'm having a cold right now. Come here, I'll give you a hug.
Yeah. Well, no hugs and kisses for the G-man, but like I've had it. It felt it was a day and a half, 2 days, a regular cold. That's all it was. But when you're healthy, your body deals with these invasions. That's it.
And if you actually read the New York Post, I don't know who does. Does anybody read New York Post anymore? But if you just just quickly scroll down,
we're reading it now.
But we're reading it for the purpose,
we're exposing
it, right? That's not something I'm looking forward to.
That's the toilet paper
Dude,
part.
I'm halfway down the article, and it's a really lengthy article. And I don't know if anybody actually reads this long. They just look at the video. Look, you see the way they do it. They post a bunch of pictures on the video. Most people will click on the video, listen to the video, blah, blah, blah. Then maybe they'll read, and then they get distracted with TikTok video, and they'll lose interest altogether. But only here they put, meanwhile, emails made public in January 2022 show the same day that Fauci, in short, the White House press corps origin, COVID origin, he also talked to Collins about the lab leak theory, right? So like they buried it way down the article. That should be the headline. Okay, let's listen to this.
It was sent to Dr. Anthony Fauci, who everybody knows as the lead advisor to the past two presidents on the pandemic. This email actually hints way back in February last year that this virus could have been engineered.
These are the most extraordinary emails to emerge because we knew that Anthony Fauci knows more about gain-of-function research, and to remind everyone, because this is a relatively new term for viewers and everyone around the world, really, but gain-of-function research takes place in laboratories where existing viruses often are either combined through, a recombination event or mutations or some form of genetic manipulation to create often they create even more deadly and infectious viruses. The point is to see whether they can be infectious to humans. So the idea behind it from these scientists is that they want to preempt a pandemic by seeing which viruses can infect humans by making them able to infect humans. And in the process, they create these new deadly viruses that never existed in nature before.
What could go wrong, Glenn?
I don't know, but I'd like to get hugs and kisses and risk getting the virus from this one.
Especially like this, right? Okay, let's continue watching.
Anthony Fauci is considered by some to be the godfather of this research. He has long defended it. As part of my investigation for the book I've written, What Really Happened in Wuhan.
She's an expert. She wrote a book.
And I uncovered a 2012 scientific paper he wrote. It was published in a medical journal where he said that the benefits of this research were worth the risk of a pandemic. It is an extraordinary acknowledgement. It is incomprehensible for a public health official charged with protecting public health to take this position, but that's what he has done. Then these emails show that in the very early stages of the pandemic, in early 2020, he became concerned that the funding for gain-of-function research in the US had flown to Wuhan. And we see there's a flurry of emails where he's trying to find out whether he could be responsible or whether the NIH could be responsible for funding the research that might have created the virus that has leaked. And Chris, this is a real possibility. This is why we've seen such a cover-up from people like Anthony Fauci. And, I always point out, we don't know for sure whether this is a natural.
At the beginning, she called him the Godfather Fauci. I'd call him the God Muppet Fauci because he's just pushing the agenda. He's the face of crap. It's unbelievable.
My question is like he's definitely not the top of the pyramid. He's just the face of, right? Like, how do you think he fits into the picture? Like, if you have to theorize, I know you don't know, me neither. Like, if you have to theorize, is he just a spokesperson? Because he obviously been around since the AIDS crisis and all those other things, like the virology associated with deadly pathogens and all that. Like, how do you think he fits in the picture altogether?
He's just a spokesmodel. He's a paid Muppet, and he's pushing an agenda, and he thinks there's a way out for him now. As you see, the lies are coming in, and they're crushing him down. They're enclosing, and they're going to get a lot worse for him. Life's going to get a lot more difficult, but it should be because he caused a lot of problems, a lot of difficulties in the world.
Is this just hopeful thinking, or you really think this is going to happen?
Well, if the world is against the truth, then I am against the world. And I hope a lot of my brothers and sisters join us. We have to stand up for the truth, stamp out all this fake stuff, because it's hurting people. It's evil. Good always wins. And it's our turn. We are going to shine, and shine bright this time.
I'll say it differently. We're not going to win. We are winning. We are shining. We're not going to shine. We are shining. And the light is the one that projects. The darkness does not project. There's no dark source. There's a light source. And there's darkness where there is no light. And we are the light. And you be that light as well, dear brothers and sisters. Well, let's shed the light on this, right? We continue to talk about the pandemics and the things that led afterwards, that fear-mongering. Okay, go do something will have a solution for you and go get the jab. But then we start to hear different things. By the way, Glenn, do you know in Quebec they no longer recommend young, healthy people to get boosters?
Yeah, we don't hear it on the commercials on the radio when we're training anymore in the gym.
Well, it's an official stand now, right? For the for Quebec Health. I don't even know what that. What
the
do
health
they call
authority?
It? Health authority, like
authority.
Authority, yeah. Submit to my authority, right? There's no. They stopped doing it. They realize that people actually. There's plenty of data now that you cannot deny it. And the leading cause of death in the West is unknown cause. And it's like up tremendously, right? So we have this story from New Zealand. Record biggest increase in registered deaths in 100 years, right?
New Zealand was an island. They had one of the most strictest lockdowns in the world. They followed the protocols. Whatever the leaders told them, the authoritarians told them, they just followed along. And now look at the results from following those so-called experts.
Well, do we have a video here?
Record amount of deaths last year in New Zealand. And I will go on the record saying, I bet you next year it's going to be even worse. Okay? And they're trying to blame it on long COVID. I think has something to do with the spikes that people have been making themselves walking targets for.
Disclosure. Actually, I got really lucky to be in New Zealand during the pandemic situation. I got to work on Lord of the Rings of Power first season Amazon series. And when the whole world was locked down and everybody had to wear masks and stay home and had curfews here in Canada and the rest of the world, I got to be free, right? The crazy part was, even though the island of New Zealand was COVID free, Amazon still made people wear masks on set. That doesn't make any sense. It also doesn't make any sense if you're wearing a mask at the place of work, right, on set. Well, somehow it's supposed to protect everybody around you. But the moment you step off the set, you take the mask off. So there's no logical reasoning for why you should wear the mask only on set, even though there's no single case on the island, which is highly protected with all the quarantines and everything else. And also they made everybody on public transportation wear the mask. I guess they're taking extra precaution. For what reason? There's no virus on the island. Crazy part is, Glenn, this is good. You're going to like this. This is not conspiracy theory. Amazon leaves New Zealand to go to the other island. They go to England to shoot Lord of the Rings second season in London. And the moment they do, somehow mysteriously, New Zealand gets stricken with the virus. And they have to go through this whole process of lockdowns and getting jabs and all this other stuff. And Amazon comes to England, and miraculously, they remove all the restrictions. How do you explain that? Do you have a theory for that?
Well, first of all, let's go back. Health authority. We are authors of our own health. We have the responsibility to take care of ourselves first. Okay? And then in the medical system, they call that health care. Well, that's not what you're really doing, because you're not caring for the healthy, you're caring for the sick. So it's a play on words. So it should be called sick care. Okay? So people should take care of their own health to prevent themselves from going into the sick care institutions. This is one of the reasons why I had a couple of gyms 25 years ago, right up until 5 years ago. And most likely I'm going to be opening some more gyms again, a chain.
Uh-oh.
Yes, because people have to get back in shape. And with the advancements in technology, it's less and less of a physical world. And you see, when you take the physicalness out of humanity, it leaves them open for a multitude of health issues and also mental health issues. So this is one of the ways to curb away from the mental health. People, we have to start taking care of ourselves, exercising, eating properly. You make better choices. Look, you still have the freedoms to make the right choices. But people are complaining about the results from the wrong choices that they've made.
Why are they still pushing that agenda that, it's okay, go drink your alcohol, go smoke your cigarette, but make sure you get your job. Because if you don't have a job, you can't even come into the United States. Even if you are the superior athlete like Novak Djokovic, right?
The greatest tennis player that ever lived. I mean, he's not even allowed into the United States because he refuses to get a vaccine.
But he was allowed in Australia.
Yeah.
The craziest Nazi,
Ironic.
they had the craziest Nazi COVID restrictions of all time, right? From all the countries, I think they had the craziest ones. And, beside New Zealand. But now, even Canada, Trudeau lets you in, without looking at your papers. Let me see your papers. But United States still, by the way, I think this is just some kind of public posturing because I went, for disclosure, recently, I traveled for the border by car and no one asked. That wasn't even a part of the conversation.
Well, the leader of the United States, President Dunce Biden, he's just imposing his dictatorship rule, his imperialistic, like, you have to do what we say, we're authoritarians, and that's it. No. Well, I'm sure Djokovic doesn't need the money. And you know what? The people in America are the ones who pay for this.
Well, they're also the ones who's losing. The event itself is losing because he's the name. He is the name. He's Michael Jordan or LeBron James of the tennis world. And he's the one who draws the masses. But now the people, maybe some, not everybody is pro jabs or, the camp is clearly divided and division now going the other way. And a lot of people will protest even watching it. So the event itself is going to lose money. The American event is going to lose money because of stupidity. And by the way, it's supposed to last till April 10th, the ban on unvaccinated travelers.
May 11th, no? It was a Thursday, May 11th?
Is it May
Or
11th?
that's the whole emergency measures.
Emergency,
in
but no,
America,
April 10th. How
because
are you?
it's still an emergency.
Okay, it says right here. However, U.S. travel rules state that international visitors need to have proof of vaccination until at least April 10th. At least, right? So they may change that. Last-ditch attempts for special early entry have failed. Like, it's just a month apart. Like, you can, give him a test. Like, if that's the thing, give him a COVID test. If that's, if you're really that scared, what are you punishing the guy for?
And when you look at Djokovic, you say, wow, he doesn't look very sick to me. Like, the man's in shape. He's at the top of his game. So we don't want to let healthy people into the country. No, we're too busy dealing with all our sick people.
Yeah, well, that's a crazy story. What else we got here? Oh, so the agenda now isn't working really well. People, like I said, they no longer promoting go get your booster. No longer promoting this. Like you said, you haven't heard this on the radio in a long time. And, we don't listen to the radio by choice. It's by default when we go to the gym. But still, we haven't heard those promotions and advertisements in a long time. But now you hear this story.
U.S. considers vaccinating chickens as bird flu kills millions. Oh, so now they want to vaccinate the chickens. And then they're going to vaccinate the fish. And then the beef and the pigs. And that's just on the protein size. Hey, what's going to happen later on? They're going to vaccinate what? The apples?
But do you remember? It's not that far-fetched. You're laughing, but because I don't know if you remember last year at some point, Chinese, when they had this strictest lockdown in some of the cities where they basically a wire shot people in the houses and a lot of people committed suicides and other things, and people were starving in the apartment buildings. They couldn't leave and etc. But they were testing. Remember, they were testing the fish and the produce for the COVID. That did happen. And I think they might even tested vegetables, like you said. So it's not that far-fetched that it actually did happen. Another thing I think about this, if people no longer want to receive it directly, maybe we don't know how this mRNA vaccine works in the animals. Maybe that's the way to pass it through. Maybe they'll inject it into a chicken and then you eat it and it's going to end up in you. Like, I don't know. There's not enough tests been done, and maybe it's been done enough that that's how they want to pass it along. One good thing about New Zealand I will share is the meat industry. The meat there is really tasty because a lot of that is grass-fed, and there's a perfect climate for sheep and cows just to graze all day long. They don't really have a winter there, and they're very protective of the industry, where they don't give them antibiotics or any kind of vaccines, and all that stuff is clean. And you can actually taste the difference. Now, we don't have that in Canada or US, so I don't know, Glenn. Is this another way to undermine the food sources?
Probably, but I know here in Quebec, our food regulations are very similar to France. And France have amongst the highest standards in the world. We're not allowed antibiotics and spraying the fields here. You know, they want it as close to natural as possible. So natural food is good for people.
Are you promoting Quebec? Let's all move to Quebec.
No, they have other issues here, that's for sure. But
we do have. Remember, we have railroad issues in infrastructure in U.S. Like, if you watch the news recently, every day there's another railroad crash, and you think like, oh my God, what is going on? Why now? What's the point? And there's a lot of attention on. Obviously, we had this East Palestine crash that spilled the chemicals into the environment and poisoned. I don't know how, maybe like half of the eastern United States, if not all, with the chemicals that was spilled and burned out, and some of that even got here via air, clouds, etc., and the snow landed here in Quebec as well. That was supposedly infected with all this. But idea is going back to the railroad crashes itself. It's not so uncommon to see those railroad crashes. As a matter of fact, statistically, there's at least a railroad crash once a day, sometimes twice a day. And my question is, okay, number one, if it's really that bad, why we're transporting hazardous materials down the railroad? Maybe let's come up with some other solutions. Number two, why we spending so much money on wars and other things when infrastructure is so terrible? Let's improve the railroads if we are using it for hazardous material. And three, we don't have pipelines because they're dangerous and they're bad for the environment, but we transport oil via railroad cars. And who owns the railroad cars, Glenn? Or most of the railroad in Canada specifically?
That's the people, Mr. Bill Gates and Mr. Warren Buffett are big shareholders in those companies.
And we think they have nothing to do with influencing Trudeau's politics and Biden's politics in terms of pipelines and all that stuff. Because God forbid, we get a spill out of pipeline, but we know statistically there's a train crashes at least once a day in North America, at least once a day. But United States just spent $100 billion on the war efforts to destroy Ukrainian infrastructure. Could you keep a few billion for U.S. infrastructure to invest some into a railroad, maybe?
Well, people are going to have to understand that this is a proxy war. You see, you read the media here, and it tells you that Russia is a war against Ukraine, when in actuality, it's the West that is starting a war with Russia and using Ukraine as a proxy. It's the same thing that could happen very soon in Taiwan. The West may use Taiwan as a reason to start war against China, because Russia and China, they're challenging America's hegemony in the world. Right now, I believe you have a stalemate. America is going to, instead of think about controlling the whole world, there's reverse globalization going on. The leader of India, Prime Minister Modi, he said that the global governance has failed. So we have to go into regionalism. So Mr. Trump was right when we said we should start investing in our own countries and make North America viable as the world changes.
Speaking of Mr. Trump, did you see that story where Mr. Trump just spoke about freedom cities?
Dozens of major companies in the United States and China are racing to develop vertical takeoff and landing vehicles for families and individuals. Just as the United States led the automotive revolution in the last century, I want to ensure that America, not China, leads this revolution in air mobility. We will also have a major initiative on lowering the cost of living with a special focus on lowering the cost of a new car and lowering the cost to build a single-family home. And they will be beautiful homes. And I will ask Congress to support baby bonuses for young parents to help launch a new baby boom.
What do you think about the smart city? Is it a setup? Is he going along? Because remember, Trump in the beginning was, of pandemic, for example, he was all for go get a job. It's good for you. The job is good. And then you find out he actually had an investment into one of the pharmaceutical companies. And here he's specifically talking about there's good things in there. Okay, we're going to give money to start up the families. We're going to lower the cost of the car. We're going to lower the cost of the house. But we're also making the modern city. We're going to have flying cars. Well, flying cars associated with new technology. You need technology. If you have a flying car, you need like all kinds of GPS, which probably is supported by a smart city technology like 5G, right? And that's kind of scary. Like, is he again on the wrong side of the history here, or we just got to wait and see? Because to me, if I'm thinking about Freedom City, okay, Freedom City is like Wild Wild West, Second Amendment kind of thing. Everybody's got a gun in a holster. Everybody's nice. Nobody likes the city, likes the house in the city. Everybody's got a green picket fence, a green lawn, like the American dream for real, like king of the hill kind of setup, right? And now it's a bit scary. I don't know if he actually means what he says. It's a freedom city, or is he promoting a smart city, 15-minute city?
Maybe it was the so-called experts who were the advisors to the White House. I mean, one man can't be an expert on everything, so he has to take advice from certain people who are influential. Maybe he was led the wrong way, also to make him look bad. But, you just showed a little film of him he's in his, mid-70s. He looks pretty good still. I mean, he doesn't look very sick to me. You never hear him that he's sick. I think he had the COVID, and he was back to work in 3-4 days. So, kudos to him. He's on his game.
Well, you know who else is on his game? I don't know. Okay, sorry. Her game. Did you hear about this? All right. So it's a few days ago, there was a big case. A transgender athlete wins discrimination suit against USA powerlifting. So this man was trying to,
no, born by nature as a man. Okay. Humans will not supersede the laws of nature. Okay. So it's a perception. Okay. So this guy was born, he had a coming out party. That is when you're born, not when you think you're reborn, okay? And now he wants attention, he wants to become a girl. Well, it's your body, brother. You do what you want. That's your business. But most people really don't care. But when you have a male person who's missing a body part by surgery or whatever,
but we don't even know that. We don't know if it's missing.
It's a perception, right? And the thing is, now this is going to be competing against natural girls. So there's a disadvantage going on. And why would they want to even compete against girls? You're going to win when it comes to strength. So why don't they have, like you have the Special Olympics? Why don't you have the Special Transgender Games? Where, If you win, well, you beat other people in your.
Well, they do. They have transgender powerlifting competition. Like, you don't have to be genius; just pull it up. And like since 2012 or whatever, 2016 in Atlanta, I think, or somewhere, they had multiple of those. It's not the first time. All this reminds me of some. I look at this as a joke. I don't know. I'm going to try to play this. Hopefully that we won't get copyrighted for this. I'm just going to play like 10, 15. Everybody's seen this funny South Park episode, and I'm just going to try to play 15 seconds of that. YouTube, this is fair use. I'm not going to try to play the whole episode. Let's just watch this for a second.
Exactly your average trans athlete.
Well, what is an average trans athlete? Honestly, I find that kind of bigoted, David.
Okay. Heather Swanson is actually joining us now. Miss Swanson, how does it feel to be competing today?
I can't tell you how free I feel now that I've started identifying as a woman. Now that I can compete as female, I'm ready to...
Yeah, so you get the point, right? So before we get... copyrighted for this. By the way, we're going to check it out if we do or not. But that in itself is a parody, right? So it makes fun of the current situation. Apparently, it's not that funny. It looks real.
You know, Alex, when we go to the gym, I've been training for 45 years. And what I've noticed is a lot of the younger men today, they're not training that hard. Like, they're not really that strong. They are about as strong as the natural girls were 40 years ago.
By natural, you mean?
They were natural. They were just training hard.
And natural mean like helpers free.
That's right. No artificial
enhancement.
Yeah, enhancements, and no pills and no injections and no. So there's something's going on. I think it's the average male's testosterone level today is much lower than it used to be. And the average willpower, the willpower of the average individual and the discipline has diminished also. This is what happens when life is too easy for too long. You know, if you go online and you watch certain man channels, they tell you how to man up and this and that. And they say, oh, life is really hard to be a man. You really got to be this and you do that, and life is hard. And really, the life today compared to 100 years ago, you have to compare to know what hard life is. But 100 years ago, the average person's life was a lot harder than it is today. So you get a little weary or tired of hearing these man channels saying, oh, life is hard for men today. And no, what's that mean? Life is too easy for girls today? You need a comparative metric. Life is easier for everybody today. People should be a lot happier, but no, their health is going down and they're plagued by mental issues. Personally, I think this whole thing about transgender, that's a choice. And okay, big man, you're 7 feet tall. Let's say you're fed up of hitting your head. You don't want to be 7 feet tall. You think, oh, I'm not comfortable with this. So if you went to the hospital and you told them to cut, 1.5 foot off your legs, they would look at you like, oh, you need mental illness. But it's okay. You need somebody to help you, and you're not well upstairs. But it's okay for a young man to want to remove his sex organ because he doesn't feel comfortable. But that's not mental illness. Oh, no. I think some of the people call that gender dysphoria.
Well, I got something to say about that. I do identify as a 6 foot man, not as a 7 foot man for job purposes because...
Good luck.
When I go to audition for my next role, height sometimes is a disadvantage. Sometimes I'm the only person for the job, and I'm grateful for that. But oftentimes, it really is not the case, and I have to kind of try to fit into the role by being creative. So when I go to audition, I audition as a 6 foot person. That's how. And if they discriminate against me, it's on them. Remember a few years back, like 20, 30 years ago, with the whole, maybe 20, 30 years ago, the whole handicap thing. people made a living out of that. Handicapped people in the wheelchair, they would pull up to the small to a medium-sized business that couldn't afford the handicap access entrances to the premises, which are expensive. If you're running mom and pop operation and maybe you're only clearing 20, 30, 40 grand a year, and you're just barely making the ends meet, especially in the beginning of your business, to install a 20, 30, 40 grand handicap ramp access to your business, which probably will be used at least at the most once a year, even if that, then people would get sued, and the cost of the lawsuit will be a little bit less than the cost of the legal help. So a lot of people would just end up paying the settlement. And I'm doing the same thing. As a matter of fact, Tall People of the World Unite, I'm doing an association for that. You can sign up, you can contribute. There will be links on the bottom of the podcast. We'll walk around, we'll bump our heads, bump it for real this time. You get some blood, draw some blood, and, call the police, call the ambulance, make a record, and then we'll pile up some lawsuits. We'll make a little business out of that, discrimination. Glenn, I like your idea.
Big man, when they come out with a movie about the biggest scam ever on the planet, and they need somebody to cast for the garden gnome Fauci, I want to break it to you, but I don't care what you do, but you're not going to get the part.
I'm not going to make it.
No.
That's funny. Well, House panel to consider GOP bill banning transgender women, girls from team sports. And it really stems from a lot of things, the things that we just talked about it. And remember, Leah Thomas, the swimmer from the University of Pennsylvania that was 462 or something like this on the on a rate chart of the male swimmers, and then he joins to be, decides to be a woman, and now he wins every meet.
Cheater.
Yeah, like you said, it's a free country, it's a free world. You want to be transgender, be the transgender. But I guess the fair thing we'll be here to do is, do your thing within your thing, right? I don't know. Like you said, there are transgender competitions. Well, let's have a transgender meet for all women. Have a transgender meet for men, and then let's have a meet for the transgender participants. This way there's no discrimination. But we're trying to level the playing field. And we stepping into all kinds of troubles when we're trying to do that.
Look, if you're born Big Louie and you're not comfortable, that doesn't mean you're going to become into Little Louise. Okay? I don't care how advanced science gets. Science will never go higher than the laws of nature. So maybe we should help people psychologically first before harming them physically. What do you think, big guy?
I'm feeling great. I actually want to give shout out to Pantelis that's watching us live right now on Instagram feed, live feed. Pantelis, if you have a way to communicate with us right now, do so. If not, be gone from the feed. No, I'm kidding. What's up, man? Yeah, it's impressive to be watched by a celebrity. Thank you, Pantelis, for tuning in.
The next one, exercise more helpful to tackle mental issues than medication.
Well, we knew that. That's not. How's that even in the news? Why is it has to be in the article?
This is the thing why I got into the gym business originally. I always knew that. And this is the reason why I want to re-enter the gym business, because society has a lot more mental illness than they did when I entered it 30 years ago.
It was never a secret, though. Okay, so that fits right into the next story, right? Antipsychotics are increasingly being prescribed to children. Here's why we should be concerned. What do you mean? Do you really need to explain why you should be concerned with this kind of research? We just had instead of giving kids an opportunity to be involved into healthy activities, let's just, put some pills into them. But,
Alex, instead of doing that, big man, instead of giving them pills because pills don't seem to be working. Pills are no good. Okay? Why don't we start by, instead of having a gym physical education class 1 hour a week, why don't we have 1 hour per day?
But that's how it was, isn't it? It used to be that way.
No, it's just the kids would go out and play by themselves. Now I think they're going out and they're playing on their devices.
Well, even if they don't, like, there's such a limited thing that you can do at the gym nowadays because, you have to be, the schools have to be very particular and very protective of what they do in case kids get hurt, in case there's some discrimination. We can't play these sports because girls can't play these sports. We can't play these sports because, God forbid, this, it does not include transgenders. I don't know, like there's so many restrictions, social restrictions, not only physical restrictions.
Let's just stop complicating the most simple things in life.
I agree.
Never mind the authoritarian agendas that are going on. Get back to the basics, the simplicity. Sound body, sound mind. It's been proven that after you exercise, you're more calm. You don't have anxiety. You don't have a more propensity for depression. So we start with that, and then it'll increase the learning ability of children. And we can start teaching them again. We start educating the children instead of indoctrinating the children with stupid stuff. This is the reason why North America is falling behind the rest of the world on student scores.
Well, here's about stupidity. You heard about International Women's Day. It's about to happen tomorrow, right? March 8th is International. It's a socialist holiday, something to do with suffrage originally. It probably had good roots associated with, with the whole concept of, let's take care of our women, let's praise our women, and, they are precious to us. Let's give them some flowers. But the idea of the International Obesity Day, is this an awareness thing?
It was last Saturday.
Or is it celebration?
Last Saturday, March 4th. Hopefully it brings an awareness thing of what's going on. In the United States of America right now, which is not the worst country in the world when it comes to obesity and overweight rates. It's like 7th or 8th in the world. But even so, why would you even want to be in the top 10? Okay? So it just brings awareness that, hey, we're on the wrong path. And they're saying by the year 2035, so 12 years from now, being overweight, it'll count for 50% of the world's population. And overweight children will double from what they already are in the United States of America. 100% increase. If we keep going the way we're going. That's why people like us are looking to reverse that. We don't want to fight obesity. We don't want to do that. We want to be pro-health. What you focus on will persist. So we're going to be focusing on being more physically active, making better choices for yourself when it comes to eating, sleeping properly, getting sound sleep at minimum 7 hours of night. All those things together, which is basic by nature, will help everybody in their life.
Well, right here in the article, it says obesity's main causes are unhealthy eating habits and a lack of regular physical activity. It is one of the most prevalent diseases in the world, reportedly affecting more than 500 million people. It's not the starvation that's affecting, that's pretty... Like you said, your earlier statement is correct. We're living in a pretty easy time where obesity affects 2 billion. That's like 1/4 of more than 1/4 of population. That's pretty. When people say, "Oh, life is hard," well, it's hard because you don't have the discipline.
Yeah, you're making it hard.
You're making it hard, and we don't teach accountability no more in school. There is no more discipline. We don't teach things that actually really matter. We don't teach kids, instead of teaching them social history and what does it mean to be transgender and LGBTQ++ and how you pronounce it and what flag corresponds with what transgender thing. Teach him how to eat correctly. Teach him push-ups. Teach him pull-ups. Teach him how to swim. You know, dude, I don't know, teach them all those good values.
And the guidance starts in the family first. So parents, the most important job you'll ever have is that of being a parent. So you have to start with teaching the children the right habits. Then the school will push that too. You teach them how to make the right choices and the results of taking and making the right choices compared to the results of making the wrong choices, which we're seeing today. And the average person is being told, oh, it's not their fault, you know, it's this, it's the food companies, it's that, you know. No, you could still you have so much choices, but you're complaining about the results of the wrong choices you're making. To fix this, you have to discern the difference between choosing, oh, what's hard and what's easy. No, it's what's right and what's wrong. Make your choices on what's right, not what's easy. If you see people that are doing whatever is easy, it leads them to a bad path.
Why diet probably won't work long term. Here, what to focus on instead. That follows, like, this is the article that follows your statement and follows the obesity thing. And look, they have healthy 2 chicks on the picture. Well, the diets don't work because it's not about a diet, right? It's about the discipline. It's about the overall approach to life, right? And
you see, what you just said right now, you would be labeled as fat phobic. But you're not fat phobic. You're just pro-health. Okay? You want to help these people. It's funny that everybody was saying, oh, you have to accept me the way I am. You know what? I'm beautiful, this and that. This. Yeah, but I was telling people, if you could find a pill that people could take and they would drop that weight easily, they would kill for that pill. And now you have these weight loss drugs, Wegovy, Ozempic, Mounjaro, you know, and there's going to be a lot more. And they're all on back order. All of a sudden, all those people are saying you have to accept me the way I am. They don't accept themselves anymore. They're just looking for the easy way out instead of making the right choices. Now, they're going to take this and maybe it'll be help them to get motivated a little bit. But what people need is discipline. If you're going to keep not doing any exercise, physical activity, and keep eating the type of foods that made you have a propensity to gain weight in the first place, then you can bet that your health, whether you're taking this medication or you're forced to stop, it's going to diminish. Okay? So you're shortening your own lifespan. These are the results of the choices you have. That's your responsibility.
What if you don't always have a choice and you got to send your kid to the school because you got to go to work? You're actually making that choice. You set up your life in the way that they told you to set up your life. You know, go to school, go to university, get a corporate job, and then make sure when you go to corporation, you send your kid to do the same, because now he's got to go to school and, you know, he's got to follow the system, and you guys all follow the system, and then something happens and then you don't know what that kid is learning. Not everybody can afford a proper private school or co-op school, anything like this. And then you end up learning that your school has some terrible books in the library, and the teacher is far left in teaching your kid how to switch his gender. And now,
coming into class with these huge fake breasts and you know, like what we got to stop this, okay? And the people are now. Looks like they've had enough. They have to be pushed that far before they say, okay, enough.
But it's not everywhere. Look, in this article, school board votes to stop hiring from Christian college, says beliefs make people unsafe.
Oh yes, high moral values make people unsafe, according to the people who are opposing religious high moral values.
Well, to this I say, where do the moral values come from? Glenn, where do the moral values come from?
Well, to learn scriptures.
Well, exactly that. Like, how does the caveman learn now how not to kill, how not to steal? The whole point of existing in the caveman society is kill or be killed. right? Still, like, you get the easiest prey. Like, you come to somebody else's other caveman cave, and he's wicked than you, but he got some food in there from the fresh kill. You're just going to be, oh, hi, neighbor. No, you're going to take his kill, probably take and rape his wife, and maybe eat his children, like lions do. Because that's nature. That's how things work. If we evolved from the monkeys, and that's the evolutionary thing that we did, evolution, where did we learn the moral values from? Because if we came from the animal world, what separated us from the animal? How did we develop this compassion for each other? How did we develop the social contract structure? Or, things like 10 commandments that fall into this.
Big man, can you bring this up? This
Yeah.
next picture here?
Yeah.
It says, it's a video. Elementary school principal violently shoves student to the ground. I don't know, sir, but if that was my son, you'd better watch yourself. Because no, you don't have the right to do that. Maybe you're losing your cool or whatever. You're authoritarian and this child is not respecting what you're saying. Okay, I can understand children will challenge people, but you better find a better way. Obviously, the child doesn't respect you. Respect is something that's earned, not given. And another thing I was just reading today, staff under investigation after a black student, 6 years old, allegedly locked in a small room at a Toronto elementary school. He's 6 years old. You don't have to put a color in front of the child. You know what I mean? It's a child. It doesn't matter what color it is, or male or a female or white, or that doesn't matter. Now, this is how you instill discipline in a child. The school does that, is by locking a kid in a little room. If that was my kid, I'd be at that school. I say, what teacher did this? Yeah, come here. You're coming with me. Okay? We have to start giving back what these people are trying to do to our children. Now, there are a lot of good teachers out there too. Okay? A lot of great teachers. And like the same thing with doctors. There's a lot of great doctors out there too that actually want to save people's lives, not follow the agenda and potentially hurt people. Okay? But a teacher is probably the most important job that a person can have for society. And they should be remunerated more for it. They should be paid more because you're creating the mindset. You're helping to create the mindset for the future. And the child, when it's away from the family, needs this guidance.
That's a good way to. We all need the guidance, brothers and sisters. We really do. We really do. And going back to the moral values, where do you get your guidance from? If you listen to our show, if you listen to the legacy media, if you get your Telegram news, if you get your TikTok news, Instagram news, Facebook, whatever you get, YouTube, whatever you get your sources, whatever your sources are, whatever you get your news from or any other information, how do you discern? And again, what is your moral complex? What is your inner voice telling you? What is the spirit telling you? Is it what I need to receive? I give you one piece of advice. If it actually makes you feel good and it doesn't stir up any feelings of anger, fear, anxiety, and it actually helps you grow as an individual, as a human being, and it leads to success, it leads to peace, love, and kindness towards yourself and towards others around you, that's probably a good guide. But to be in that balance where you're able to receive that, you need to have disciplined practice with your body, mind, and your soul. So have a spiritual practice, have a physical practice, and have a mind practice, meditation, etc. On this note, we're going to finish this show. Thank you, Glenn, so much again. Look at Glenn and Rambo, too happy. You identify, he's kissing you. What do you identify as right now?
A good owner.
A good owner.
That's my responsibility. My dog is in shape. He's healthy. And he's sharp. And he's a great mascot for our show. I'm fortunate to have him.
That's a great way to finish the show. Thank you, Glenn. Thank you, brothers and sisters, for tuning in. Hopefully you got some discernment. We'll see you on the next one.